I just took it off my normal outfit and put it back on.
I also wearing my kind of Zoom sweater.
Same here. I have the same black sweater.
Alors, you're in Paris too?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, yeah. It's the lockdown.
Oui.
Hello,
I wish I
Fabrice.
could be somewhere else.
Allô, bonjour.
Fabrice?
Bonjour la France. Bonjour. Très l'Eurovision. Ça va? Vous me voyez ou pas du tout?
Ça va.
Vous me voyez?
Pas du tout. We don't see you, Fabrice.
Alors, attends. Yes, I am coming, I am arriving, I am here.
Okay.
Fabrice has the same cap of yesterday as well.
Yeah, we were noticing that everybody's wearing the same clothes than yesterday.
Yeah, but me, I change the background, but
The thing of the lockdown is you kind of
yeah,
wear the same clothes over and over again. It's
the impact of the background.
fashion.
Marcello et Fabrice and Sophie.
Yes.
Supriya Lele is running late. She's on the street, but her phone is going to die, so she will be late for the meeting. So maybe we have to change the order of appearance.
Yes, yes.
She's trying to make it.
Okay, so when is she supposed to ask her questions?
Alors, je regarde.
I'm checking it.
Appearance.
She's at the number 5 position.
Yeah, so maybe she might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. In other case, I just jump straight to shut off.
Or maybe before Nicolas, like if she's running really late, you never know.
Nicolas, that's why he's the last one.
He's the last one, yes. Yeah, because sometimes it could be fast. What does she say, like Laure, like she's running super late? Or?
I'm writing to you, okay?
Ok. Ça veut dire qu'elle est super loin. Alors maintenant, je vais rappeler. I'm going to send you back a call to Atitan. How do you name it, Sophie? Atitan? Yes.
Sorry?
What's the name of? Is Atitan? How do you name it? Is Atitan? Atitan? I don't know. Like.
Actually, you know, I've been discussing and exchanging with Atitan for long years, but I've only seen him once.
Yeah, me too.
And when I saw him, I didn't ask him the question how to pronounce his name. I said, Ati, you know. I think everybody calls him Ati.
Okay, it's better.
But he's super impressive as an assistant. It's the assistant you dream of.
Yes.
Yeah, just to let you know who you are here. Ati is the assistant of Virgil. I think he's been the assistant since, for so many years, since I know Virgil. And he writes emails that are super, super nice, super polite, but over polite and very positive, and it's really part of the charm. You know, sometimes people write you emails and you don't even have a hello or whatever, but he says like twice hello, big thank you. He's really charming. And I'm sure he's a friend, you know, a friend of Virgil for years.
Yeah, I think totally. Really, you feel the connection.
Yeah, you feel, you know, that Virgil, when he could, he really hired him because they were friends, and actually super dedicated and helping Virgil.
Alors. Amélie is super fast to answer also.
We still don't have an answer for the US elections, huh?
No, it's crazy, huh?
Crazy. I mean, I do think, well, we will think Biden will win, but
We do. I do think
to
too.
think
But
that there is still no official answer to that question is incredible.
I think it won't become before. Won't be not before like 3 or 4 days. Huh? More.
Yeah, end of Friday, I heard, or
The
Saturday.
best in the best case. Voilà.
It's really
Voilà.
good system.
Who's going to do that now?
Everything is okay with the voice, Marcello. You're okay with?
Yes, you sound amazing, Fabrice. I think everyone is really good. I mean, the only thing is, like, I don't know, we recapped yesterday, but the best close to the camera as you can be would be amazing as well for all of you. It doesn't need to be now, but like when we are recording. So we have a good view of you guys. And I will recap as soon we have more people as well. And you know, these things as well. It's missing some of you guys. So no stress for now.
Fabrice, you know, you're a little en contre-jour.
I mean, me, I won't be filmed, so I think no worries about it. I won't be in the video, so it's just like I'm just welcome you and to know who is here, everything is ready, and to welcome Virgil, and then after maybe I will change my background, but I won't be in the video, so no worries about it.
Ah, well, it's a pity. Well, you look good.
Thank you.
When we can
You
see
support me. Alors, where is the right?
So we are missing a few designers, huh?
Yeah, still yes.
Who is
Sur le WhatsApp, là, qu'est-ce qui nous manque, Laure?
Peter, Shara.
Sharaf, Nicolas.
Sharaf is just arrived.
I'm sending them.
I'm
Sharaf.
here. It's Priya here. I'm here.
Ah,
Yeah,
Priya.
is here. And Miss Nicolas, maybe?
Yes, and Peter.
Where is Peter? Voilà.
And Sharaf, no?
No, Sharaf is here.
it's here?
Ah, hi Sharaf.
Hello.
Hi Sharaf.
Hello.
Ça va?
Ça va, Sophie?
Ça va? Ouais.
Oui. Alors, Virgile est là aujourd'hui, pas là?
For the moment, no, but
Okay, just like
we are very
I have
positive.
an answer from Atitan, like confirm Virgil is going to join us. So,
It's like 7 o'clock in the morning for him, no?
yeah, totally. So Nicolas.
Priya, you are the iPhone, right?
Yes, I'm iPhone. I don't know why it says that. Yeah, but that's me.
Yes. No, you can get the camera as well, right?
Yeah, I can get the camera in a bit.
No stress, just to know if it's okay for you.
Yeah, I'm just.
You have to be ready because Virgil is coming in 1 minute, as he said. Alors, where is
Yeah, but we are still missing
yes.
three
I have a
designers.
WhatsApp, but it doesn't answer Nicolas.
Peter is here.
Peter is coming.
Yep.
Hi Peter.
Hi, sorry. Hello.
No worries.
Yeah, we know it's super early in the morning.
Yeah,
What time is it for you, Peter?
it's 8. Sorry, I was just trying to feed my dog.
It's all
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
J'ai l'impression qu'on a perdu Nicolas. Il ne répond pas.
On a perdu Nicolas
Et Supriya et le coup.
et Supriya.
Fabrice, we send the right link to Virgil, right? Not the yesterday one.
Yeah. I did have. You did have the writing. Me, I didn't. So Virgil is coming in like 1 minute. Ouais, ça, je ne réponds pas. Ok.
So I'll do the short introduction and then I'll
Parfait.
give the floor to Cindy Zo.
Parfait.
Yes, I think you, Sophia, you'll be introducing Virgil, and Virgil is going to talk, right? And then I can cue Cindy to do the first question because I'm choosing cameras here. Now my camera is on you. So
Okay, yeah. So I'll do the introduction and then maybe I give the floor to Virgil.
Yes.
And I think Cindy Zo will ask her questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Virgil enter right now, so I'm going to admit him. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, Virgil.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Well.
It's super early for you, no?
It's early, but I'm always up, so it's all good.
Okay.
Thank
Is
you.
it 7 or is it 8?
It's 7.
Oh yeah, because you have a time difference with New York. Wow.
Yeah, but nah, everything's good. How is everyone?
Fine.
Oh,
Good.
yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
all fine.
And I do love your background. What is behind you? Is like a puppet?
Yeah, it's like remnants from the last show, you know, like the shows start like creeping into my space and they stay for a while.
So just like to introduce you, Virgil is so you know Sophie and the candidates and the winners of the edition, and then just before maybe you will have like the intervention of Marcelo, who is going to ask to the candidates to talk. So Marcelo is here, is like representing our partner communication. Voilà.
Hello, Virgil.
And some candidates
how's it
are
going?
running still.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Fabrice. So to introduce, welcome everyone. This is a very special mentoring session because we have a very special guest. So of course, Virgil really needs no introduction, but I still wanted to talk about a few facts. I mean, first, it's a little auto-promotion, but Off-White was on the first LVMH Prize, the one of 2014. And the brand was only 2 years old, not showing yet. So in a way, at a stage where you are now, so it's super interesting that you meet Virgil also for this reason, because he's taken his brand from scratch to this incredible brand, which is actually the most successful of the decade. It's not even a decade because it was launched in 2012. So since then, I've known Virgil and followed his path. And as I mentioned, it's been quite incredible. And as I started mentoring you, I've insisted a lot on the branding. I think the branding is really the building block of all your companies, and it's super important. And Virgil, among a lot of advice, I'm sure he will be super good at advising you on branding because he's so good at it, both of Off-White and also as Louis Vuitton men's director. So when he called Fabrice and I, we were super excited that he proposed to help on the mentoring, because I really think he can be very insightful and give great advice and great tips for you all, because he's done an incredible path from scratch. Thank you for all of you to have prepared all these questions. So we'll go through all these questions. I hope we'll have time. And really, I want to thank Virgil for being here today, and a big virtual hug to you, Virgil. So now the floor is yours, and then Cindy will ask her questions. I'm sure you want to say a few words, Virgil.
No, yeah, you know, thanks Sophie and thanks Fabrice for allowing me to sort of, you know, join in on the benefits of the LVMH Prize. I'll start with saying sort of one thing. It's like, you know, my career and my point of view is that fashion is only valuable to the culture if it evolves, you know, and it's the duty of like the young generation to challenge the presiding one. And that's what's great about the LVMH Prize. It's like the perfect backdoor in my mind to bring newness to the industry in a certified way. So first of all, congratulations to all of you because you know, it's one thing to have your degrees on your resume, but having this program through LVMH is, you know, a certified place to sort of make an impact on the industry. And I'll close with, you know, I firmly believe that you guys are a part of the graduating class that will affect how the outside world understands fashion. I think the year 2020 is like an amazing example at understanding how unimportant or important, you know, fashion can be. Like it's inherently our job to speak for people, and who we decide to speak for already puts limits on how broad our reach can be. You know, my background was in architecture and engineering, but in a way I feel like fashion allows me to do both those things and use my mind and my knowledge to participate in the world. So I'm excited to answer your questions. You know, I'm not that type of formal person either. I'm definitely not a suit. You know, I wear a hoodie and a t-shirt every day. So don't look at this as like 1 hour and like, you know, some formal thing. I'm not that guy. If you have questions, like whenever, I'm always around. You can get in touch with me via any way, and I can give like more time or specific advice. And I think that's the one thing I wanted when I joined the LVMH Prize. Is I remember seeing the judges for like 2 minutes and then they got in their like black S class and I never saw them again, which, you know, my impact at LV is to make it as modern as it is. That's not just me and my collections. It's what I wanted fashion, Parisian fashion, to be when I got into it. You know, I looked up to, you know, Karl Lagerfeld, Eddie Slimane, Phoebe Philo, and, you know, Marc Jacobs, and I'm happy to be able to call these people mentors of mine. And that's just because they gave me extra time. You know, they didn't look at me like, oh, you're just here threatening my job or something like that. You know, there's like a real community. And I think amongst yourselves too, of course, designers don't love hanging out with designers because we're all kings of our castle. But I'm positive that if you guys make a community amongst yourselves, you'll see the industry change faster. So that can be the end, and we can just go into questions maybe specifically.
Yes, thank you, Virgil. We'll start with Cindy, so questions.
Okay. Hi, Virgil. Hi. So my first question is, what has a mentor said to you that's changed your approach to making or maybe influenced your creative process?
That's a good first question, and it starts with this guy here. Probably my biggest mentor in fashion came from Marc Jacobs, and it came from actually, not just saying this because we're on the panel, it came from when I did the round of judges visiting the LVMH booth during not the first night where it's like crazy, where it's just the judges before you present to them. I was wearing a Supreme t-shirt, and this was maybe like, you know, like well before streetwear had acknowledged fashion. And I had this very long-winded pitch about why I was wearing this t-shirt, because I wanted to merge those worlds. And he stopped me before I even started, you know, got to my third sentence. And he said, you don't even have to explain. You know, and especially me as a designer, I felt like I was coming, you know, not from the traditional fashion school. So I always had in my brain that I always had to over-explain before I got to why I'm a designer and why I think. And he just stopped me before I even got going. And he was like, I'm from New York. He was like, you don't have to over-explain yourself as a Black designer, as like a young designer coming from a different way. He was like, kids come to my office with Supreme on every day. I'm not the designer you have to explain that to. You might have to explain that to. And the moral of the story is having confidence in yourself, knowing that, you know, there's no boilerplate for being a designer. And it was very big for Marc Jacobs, for him to say that to me, because he knew that, hey, he's Marc Jacobs, he's an American designer. And I bring up this puppet because even after my last show, he always sends me messages on Instagram DM, like quick, and he says, like, just continue being yourself. Because obviously once you do it at this level, every show equals like more press afterwards for reasons you'll never even know. And he just keeps telling me, like, don't ever stray away from being yourself. Know that you're doing your job and know you're doing your destiny. That's the part of being a designer that you don't realize is after you design, then comes the whole tornado. It's like press, and then sales, and then meetings with the bosses, and then meetings with then internal studio, and so that's what's great, like we're all designers, which is our craft. But as you go on your journey, you have meetings about marketing, finance, and then, the press is a whole different thing. And so, I think heartfelt advice can come from someone big like Marc Jacobs. It can come from your best friend. But those are the few stories I had on that.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Next question comes from Priya. If you as well could put your phone in the landscape, would be amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but then we have to turn.
It's okay if you want to turn back to the other position as well. You're mute.
Sorry. Hi.
Hey, what's up?
I'm Priya. I'm the creative director and owner of Alawalia. Thanks for coming today. My question for you is, how did you take Off-White from like an independent brand, you were in the same shoes as us in the prize and stuff, to like a global company? I guess that's a really big question because I'm sure there was a lot of things to it. But yeah, how did it go from, independent to a business that's competing on a global scale?
Yeah, that's a good question I haven't thought about in a while. Sharaf, what up? Sharaf's my homie since, but I've known Sharaf for a long time. We used to just come to Paris and be like wanting to participate in the city, and there was no space for us in fashion. So I was at, his bars and clubs, and we were building community. So first it's community. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that often gets removed whenever you look at the success story, or in quotes. I never speak about myself in that third person, but what you can't see around Off-White is the amount of flights, the amount of nights, the amount of just building community in New York, Tokyo, Milan. There's just friends, representing a culture, even if that culture didn't become at the forefront. But more specific to your question is, when I was in the LVMH Prize, you have to imagine that was the same year Demna and Vetements was like, maybe they were one season in.
Yeah, they were very new too.
Yeah, very new. I was backstage with Demna, and he was like more nervous. He couldn't even get his speech together for how he wanted to present. And I was, and mind you, you guys might be the same. I was like, I have my brand Off-White. I haven't fully evolved to what I know it can be, but I was looking at Vetements as like the establishment. I was like, it's the coolest, youngest brand. They have so much attention with the press. They have so much attention with buyers that I was like, I had so much room to grow, even though I knew that I was on the same level. And let's just be real. This is a real conversation. This isn't like a suit conversation. Us as designers, we have contemporaries. We're all a part of almost like a scene, right? And you hear people talk about things all the time. I just used it as motivation. Like, I was like, if Vetements is going to be, because I'm American, so I was like, oh, we're doing the street thing. And then I saw my friend, we were friends, but they had a different level of respect because it was European. And I was just using that as like motivation. I was like, I'm gonna keep working, keep doing shows, keep doing collaborations, keep doing, for me, it was about breaking the rules. You hear that a lot. They would call me a disruptor. And it's like, I don't think I was disrupting, I was just trying to sort of keep people seeing that Off-White or my ideas weren't like, I don't take days off. If it's about work ethic and creativity, every day I can do this. And I think that's the change in the fashion landscape. Before you could just show, or you could have your own rhyme or reason, but before you could just show 2 times a year, image campaign 2 times a year. But Instagram, whether you like it or not, moves faster. Our culture, Vogue.com, the front page is changing every day. And I always say, don't just use fashion as the genre. I see Nicholas here, it's like music is a whole nother genre, art, fine art, gallery, furniture, ceramics. I think the next generation of fashion will look at a wider lens and then also participate in the traditional lens. And I think in terms of, just to answer the last bit, like in terms of business, I just looked at where no one else was gonna go. Let's just be honest. If you look at how you build your business, there's the ready to wear, there's like runway, and then there's like the collection that buyers buy every time, no matter what. They're looking for an identifiable marker. They're looking for, obviously they're looking for a t-shirt. They're looking for something that when you buy online, that you can tell it's your brand. And I learned this from Neil Barrett, and he told me that the biggest change in his business is that you could tell a Neil Barrett garment by just looking at a flat image of it.
Yeah.
And, I came from streetwear, I came from, in the 90s of New York, where that was what we didn't have means of ateliers in Italy. We had the local screen printer. So it's like, I refused to fit in one box or either. Like my runway shows were what I was building my business on, and my like items that you could tell at a glance. And basically in my world, they're not separate. They're not different hierarchies. That's not the same for everyone else. You have your own DNA, but I would encourage you to find what your, like, how you can adapt to the modern world. Like if I were to tell you the biggest trick about me organizing my business, it's having a complete embracing of what items that I have are commercial that sell, but also not putting them at a lower hierarchy to be like, this is not as important. I only like doing this. It's like, that's where the styling of my shows came important. Like you would find a hoodie, a t-shirt next to a dress, next to high heels. And that language is Off-White,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Virgil. So the next question is coming from Tomo.
Yep. Hi.
Hey.
My name is Tomo Koizumi. I'm Japanese designer based in Tokyo. And my question is, do you have any advice for young designers on how to become a creative director of a fashion house like you do?
That's the magic question.
Yeah. Sorry, but I'm really curious.
Nah, I'll tell you one thing. Like that was the one that like I've spent the most amount of time on, because I thought it was impossible. Everyone would tell me it was impossible. Like I came from one printed t-shirt in New York City, and I was like, one day I'm gonna figure it out. Like, and let's be honest, it's fun. A lot of people, the rule number one is people will tell you that it's stressful, like it's not like you know, you don't want to do it, and don't believe that. That's not true. You know, that's the older generation scaring you to think that you'd rather just be in your small atelier and, you know, small, like, I'm a different, like, whatever. That's my point of view. Like Nicolas Gasquet explained it to me the best I've heard explained is when Nicolas explained it to me the day that I met him before it was announced. He said, I've been doing this work for so many years. He was like, the thing about designing for a fashion house is you never hear the word no. Like, you think of an idea and it's possible. Like, that's the dream, is that you could be like, I want this fabric that does this, or I want this, like, I want to do a show here and I imagine it exploding and then this and that. Like, there's people to make that happen. So that's what it's like. The hard part is you guys are already 30% away on your journey. You know, that's why the LVMH Prize is important, is because they said, hey, we're going to make a door to look at talent before you come. So before you realize that you've already, all of you who have won, you've already done your first and second interview. Do you know what I mean? Imagine the era when there was no LVMH Prize, because basically they're looking through the talent and you've made it. So you should feel proud at making the stage, because what you have to do is you have to let your DNA be known by the powers that decide. And I know this is an LVMH call, but you winning basically has every house basically knowing your project a little bit more in depth. My word of advice is you have to, I think the landscape is different even today versus when I signed 3 years ago. And I feel like what made me, put me in position to be, is I was like, Off-White was my resume. It was a business plan. It was the way that I carried myself. It was the way that I organized my shows. And basically I would look at every season to be like, this is what, if I were at a house, this is what you guys should be doing. And I'll tell you, that works 100% of the time. Because when you see a young designer fostering a community, building an identity, selling, and moving in a chic and respectable way, when they're looking to put a new position, they're going to be like, wait a second, this person has been, instead of in a meeting, you're showing your scenario. The other route is that you just get a phone call from thin air and you get a meeting, which, you know, I'm too impatient. You know, I like having the control in my hands. So I think if you take what I just said and then plan your next fashion show, and this is the thing, is the last part of the question that I'll answer is like, when you design for a house, you're not designing for yourself anymore. That's a good thing to know. Like, I'm also paranoid. You know, I know the horror stories of designing for a house. It can be very stressful because you have, in my Off-White studio, I decide everything: fit, fabric, location, music, everything. No, I don't even think twice. When I design for a house, every step of the way, someone else is like looking, you know, at the first prototype, the second prototype, the third prototype, the show. I'm presenting it 3 times internally. You know, I overwork so that I'm confident in it, but I think it's important to you have to develop a new set of ideas that are different than what you do for your own brand. And it's obvious we're in a state where the fashion industry is changing. So fashion houses are big. They don't change as fast as our smaller brands. Your job then becomes teaching them how to change in small ways that respect the heritage. And that's the short case scenario. And lastly, a bit of like infrastructural advice is just find the right people to call. You know, the CEO of the brand that you would want to go to, like email them, book a meeting, have a coffee. Like, nothing more important than having that position so they know who your name is. And, you know, like one coffee 3 years later could equal the job that you would eventually get. Like, you know, my boss, Michael Burke at LV, I had dinner with 6 years ago. And I saw him in Miami Art Basel 3 years ago. Nothing ever happened in between. And then one day I got a call. So few things that you can take away from that.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. So the next question, I'm just going to place the ping, is Peter Doe.
Awesome. How's it going?
Good. How are you? Thank you for being here. Well, I have a question for you. What are some things now that you look back on the early days of starting Off-White that you wish you could do differently? And what do you enjoy the most on those early days, and what do you miss the most?
Yeah, another great question. The early days are the best. And even, you know, all of you, when you're you know that you're going to go far, but the early days are when you are in a quiet space where there's less pressure, but you obviously know you have the talent. For me, the early days were a bit like, it was a bit tough in the realm of like fashion industry. I felt like I was a little too early for what the industry had like in mind as designer. You know, at the time it was Vetements, it was Gosha. You know, it was our small brands. And, you know, I think the main part, what I loved about that time was me and my friends, right? We weren't focused on the industry. We were focused on developing a culture. I enjoy, you can imagine my first meeting with so I started my project in America. I went to Italy because I wanted Italian production. And I think the best time for me was translating the sort of like natural street energy into an atelier, like building an atelier. A small fact is like my atelier at Off-White is almost bigger than my atelier at LV in some ways, more hands-on. Like me and my pattern maker developing like the style of Off-White. That's what I enjoy the most, is the epicenter of your brand will come from you and your relationship. And finding new ways to work is the very much like, that's going to be your DNA that you'll write a book about in 10 years. So for me, Off-White it's also like, you know, I'm doing both right now. And it's a bit of a challenge to be like, okay, which ideas do I develop within my own studio, my own brand, and then which ones do I develop at LV? And at the end of the day, I sort of the biggest, and this is one of my biggest pieces of advice is to all of you, is you have to look outside. This is what I find that in fashion, you don't never hear a designers like I'm looking at the world politics, I'm looking at, you know, the pandemic, but not in like an adult way. I'm looking at like, what do people want to wear? What do people want to identify with? Do I want to look at fashion images right now? Not really. You know, do I want to tell stories about humanity or metaphor, or talk about how, you know, my parents or my heritage exists in the larger scale? That to me is your generation's next window to change us. And that's like a big deal. You can only be a younger designer and see the world the way it is. Like, we're already in too many meetings. We're already farther along. So when I looked at streetwear, in quotes, versus like runway, I saw there was a missing component in runway images. You know, I saw that there was a lack of authenticity, reality, and I was going to insert that. It's the same way as when I look at Alexander McQueen images, like he was so far beyond his contemporaries because he was painting, it was Theatric or Galliano. You know, they were, and that's the biggest component, is that designers that lead, they're breathing different air. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have authority to take risks because they don't even see it as a risk. They just see that as painting images. And every 3 years in fashion, there's another disparity between the reality and what the industry has become. So I would encourage you to identify what makes you unique and what do you see that no one else sees. And that's where you're gonna be, that's where you're gonna make a name for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, next question will come from Supriya.
Hi. Hi.
Hey,
Can you hear me? Hi,
Yeah.
nice to meet you. So my question is that, you know, when you're starting out, you collaborate a lot with lots of different people. And so it can be quite difficult in that respect. So
Sorry,
do you have any?
Supriya,
Hi.
you cut a little bit. If you could repeat the question, please.
No problem. Yeah, sure. So when you're starting out, obviously, you know, you collaborate with a lot of different people. So managing people and working within a team of collaborators, do you have any tips for how to best kind of communicate what you need, but still remain professional, and sort of, yeah, how do you sort of best work within, you know, when you're building your team to start with, I think, because that can be quite tricky, I feel.
Yeah, another stellar question. And
Yeah.
it's like, the thing is that I have to understand that it's all about your personality, right? Like, we're designers, so everyone in here knows exactly what they want. You know, it's like, collaboration to me, I use that interchangeably with just the word conversation. You have to be able to converse to get your ideas out. You know, no one of us exists just by ourselves in one room with a table, and you dream up fabrics that arrive and they get twirled up and made into a garment. My biggest success, even beyond my design career, to me is how I converse, how I communicate my ideas. And let's be honest, it's personality. It's how you communicate. I think the biggest reason of my granular sort of way of working is that I dispelled the myth that to work in fashion, you have to be like a dragon. You know, like my studio atmosphere at LV, my studio atmosphere at Off-White, I empower people. So like, if you work for me, I'm not gonna be like telling you what to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a conscious decision, because I make a studio. It's like a recording studio. It's an artist studio. It's, if you've made it here, the success is just as much as my design team, as much as in myself. It's the same at Nike. You know, the reason why I collaborate a lot is when I was coming up, you know, I didn't have American Vogue. I didn't have ID. I didn't have Days. They weren't looking at me, you know. So I was like, I have no way to get media. I have no way for anyone to message my brand besides myself, because I wasn't going to wait for the magazines because they're too slow. I didn't think they understood my vision. And so that's why Off-White is synonymous with collaboration early in the day. To Peter's question, like, what I enjoyed is that nature of finding new ways to get broadcast time, you know, and like, that's the thing I'd say is, like, just going back one question before I answer that, it's like, you need media, right? Otherwise it's you on your Instagram, like, which only can get you so far. Even your friends only want to hear so much. So collaboration in unique ways was like self-made way of getting the word out. But to your question, within studio, it's how you curate the atmosphere that gets the best out of people. And I thought that there was a myth that, and to be in fashion, you had to like shut the door, smoke the cigarettes, drink the Diet Coke, you know, storm around like something is wrong, like in all the movies and all that stuff. And in reality, being mild-mannered, always being ready for the best idea to win, you know, always fostering this place where people can feel like they're themselves. Because I started in fashion because I didn't want to work a desk job. I didn't want to work in a place that was like someone, like I had job, you know, I was an architect. So I had a boss that was always like, oh, that thing you drew, it's wrong. And then I just drew it again. And it's like that atmosphere was horrible. So Off-White, I made as like this space. It's like if you're young and you want to go up against Gucci and Balenciaga and these big brands, but we want to just do what's relative to our culture, like let's work. And like this, you know, like the success of the shows is just as much as you as me. These are our dresses together. These are our tailoring. This is our identity on styling, and keeping it very loose is how our generation works. Anyone that's under like 30 believes in this new world of working, which embraces our differences, you know, embraces free thinking, embraces breaking rules. And then you find out that what makes you different is what literally ends up on the clothing rack. You know, it ends up in your brand logo. It ends up in your community.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Next one will be Sharaf from Casablanca.
Hey, Virgil.
Hey, the boss. I work for Sharaf.
So my question is like, after all the revolutionary moves that you've done already, where do you see fashion going next?
You know, every day my answer is
Because
different.
you're quite Marcel Duchamp, the fashion.
Yeah. Well, you know, what happened is like, you know, I'm as much as like a fashion historian too, you know, like when just last year, when I'm still looking at like Margiela shows, you realize that Margiela put a canon in fashion that is insane, like still insane by this day. You know, like he didn't arrive to fashion with a style, he arrived to fashion with a logic. And to me, as a young designer, you know, you want to leave an impression on the industry so that other people can iterate on that. I think when you ask someone like me what's next, I first look at the world and see how like the world is different. You know, most days as a designer, I'm emotional and all that stuff. A lot of days I'm disappointed by the industry, just to be honest, of like, you know, the emotional designers, like almost like, where's the emotion? Where's the community? Where, you know, I always dreamed that Paris was these studios where it's all artisans. Then, you know, like everything is like heartfelt. So there's that. And that answers where I went next is like, I spend a lot of time not focusing on fashion. And I think that the future of fashion industry is when you can link all the cultures together. You know, when you can link fine art or art, it doesn't matter whose it is. You can link home design, you can link architecture, you can link music, painting, sculpture, ethnicity. You know, I think fashion misses out on, like, of course, I have a lot about like, how does fashion celebrate all cultures instead of just one culture? Like, have we seen real designers of different ethnicities get celebrated? The answer is no. You know, but have we seen fashion's response to campaigns and images and all that? Like, we know what that looks like. You know, I think that the future of fashion, like fashion's only defined by 20%. I think the rest of the 80% is when we really embrace and celebrate like what's happening in you know, the Middle East and Asia and Africa, but it has to be in a way that we haven't seen in the past. So for me, I've been obsessed about the shows, fashion shows, as like a way of storytelling, as a way of, and this is something to Peter's question earlier, because fashion for me was transactional, basically something super expensive that I wanted that I couldn't afford. I try to make Off-White and I try to make LV free. And it's weird, like the fashion shows are my show notes, like that's for the 17-year-old version of myself who couldn't afford a Louis Vuitton wallet, but I would study everything. I feel like I knew the designer who's speaking my language. And that to me is the future of fashion. Like when our names can be synonymous, like Margiela is. Like if you take a t-shirt and you cut off the neck ribbing, like that's Margiela, already. But how can we of different descents all over the globe be our own Margiela, our own Ralph Lauren, our own, Karl Lagerfeld? Because I believe that it's possible, but the world hasn't seen it yet. So, that's what when I wake up every day, I'm like, let's go, like I'm ready to keep painting and try to make that happen.
Great, thank you.
That's great. The next question is coming from Shapova Rowena, and I hope I pronounced right. And is Emma, I think that is making the question.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you. Our question is, what are your main sources of inspiration?
Cool. Yeah, another good question. My main source of inspiration is the real world. In the beginning of lockdown, in the beginning of 2020, I was on like a Vogue panel and I said, like, when you walk around the block of your house and then you look at your Instagram, like those two different realities, that space in between is where I operate. Like there's endless inspiration based on the person who doesn't know what Off-White is or Louis Vuitton is. Like you feel, especially in a pandemic, how fashion might not be necessary as when in 2019 it was like still cool to like dress up and like be fashion or something like that. And so imagine how many new things to create exist in 2020 that didn't apply in 2019. And how can I talk to that person that lives in my city that doesn't know what the new Bottega shoes look like, the boots, like there's a reality base. And that's why I think Margiela is so important, like even in 30 years or so, that premise of reality is an abyss. It's so big, the idea of real people being able to relate to high fashion. I'm also inspired by, I think fashion is a communication art. I think a 14-year-old are so obsessed with fashion that they might be able to learn about history through our collections. So I'm interested in how fashion is like a storytelling device. I love like Wes Anderson films, or I love like Spike Jonze, Michel Gondry, Jodorowsky. Every time that I read something or I find a book or a movie, I try to translate that into a collection. This year I've been making more books I've been making a lot of books, just like text and images and printing and binding them, and then starting collections from making something instead of just being inspired by what I see, and then now I have a book as well as a collection that I feel like I created. So those are the few things. It's always looking at different industries and telling stories that I haven't heard told. Awesome.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you.
Okay, that was our next question. I need to wait a little time because I need to ping him. It will be Nicholas Daly.
Hello, hi Virgil, it's Nicholas. Nice to meet you.
That's good.
I did have one question on fashion, but actually I feel like not fashion, on music, sorry, because obviously that's a big part of what I do, and you know, obviously your brand and DJing. But I actually wanted to move on to something I feel which is probably more important, is like, you know, what's your current thoughts on the racial diversity within the fashion industry, and also how do you handle the pressure, obviously being one of the very few Black designers working at, you know, a major French house, and how do you feel the future of that's going to look like for, you know, designers of color? And obviously it's amazing, like myself and Sindisu and Supriya and Priya as well, and Sharif, you know, like this, us as a community, you know, we're obviously showing there is change, but you know, how do you handle the pressure, you know, because when I look at Black designers or designers of color at top level, like even now, that is still so small. So you know, how do you deal with that on a, you know, from a business level, from a perspective, you know, from a personal level? It'd be great. Sorry, that wasn't one direct question. It's quite
no, but it's a good one. It's an important one. I'm glad you asked.
From music, because I just felt actually, you know what, like this is,
I'd
really like to know kind of how you feel about it, because for me, like you've done such an amazing you know, job with what you've done with Off-White and LV, so it'd just be good to know.
Yeah, and that's a part of my big mission. Like to ask for your part of that question, like how do you deal with the pressure? Like a little bit like a horse with blinders on. It's like I knew, obviously, you know, my parents are from Ghana and West Africa. My mom has been sewing since she was like 12 years old, and she taught me how to sew when I was 15. But when you would hear my name in the press, it'd be like streetwear designer, like from printed t-shirt. Like it wasn't as if I was like, you know, press didn't pick up on that. Like my sewing and my identity on a pattern making is from Africa. It's not Italian, it's not American, but it's also not romanticized in the same way. So I kind of just put my blinders on, and I always call it like, this is my internal, everyone in my studio or my friends. Like, it's important to foster community because you need friends as psychiatrists. You know, you need friends to be able to discuss and have like drink tequila and be like, this is crazy. You know, like how do I deal with it? And like, I call it my Trojan horse. Like I needed my own sort of brain metric so that I could get up every day. So I could deal with like a weird review in a magazine or a weird review to my collection and not let it like attack my soul. A small side note is I don't read anything about myself, or I try not to read it at all, like good or bad. That's the #1 way to keep your sanity. I swear, like if you have a different level of skin, thick skin, like you can read your show reviews and read press. Like I stay away from it from the very beginning of Off-White. I never read them because I knew that even if it was good, one day it's going to be bad. So I didn't put that a part of my logic system just to protect myself. Being in the best part of my story, especially as it relates to my skin and blackness and racism that exists in fashion, a very important part of my story is that for 80% of my career, no one was looking at me, looking for me. And that's the power that it might have seemed like a negative. Like I wasn't getting called from American Vogue. I wasn't getting like, I was like, I picked up my bags from America, I went to Italy, and I was like, put me on the schedule. And I started from one show to the next show to the next show. But then it was the after party. And it was like, I was inviting my friends to the show. So all of a sudden, my fashion shows had musicians, it had artists from Skepta to Sharaf to whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, those editors that were going to the boring shows, not boring, but traditional shows, all of a sudden they come and they're like, whoa, this is a community. Who are these people? You know, they're not stuck outside in Paris. And I think to be specific to your question, as outliers, as minorities in the industry, as soon as you bring your community, then you're protected. And it's like your community is in Paris. There's like, and that's why I like discussing this, because a lot of people think it's difficult and the mountain is too high, but it's actually not that scary if you build your own Trojan horse and you move together. Like, and so of course, 2020 was like a crazy year for me, because I knew the work that if anyone had been to my studio or been to my shows or paying attention to my work, you see that I've been championing Black designers, whether that's creatives, stylists, you know, collaborators, just people, you know, from who I'm booking, and like from Baffic to, you know, all the musicians. It's like, I don't even need to list, but I realized that as I was getting bigger, it was getting more separated on who actually knew my work versus perceived. And now I understand things about like racial figures, you know, from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King to, you know, Marcus Garvey. It's like, the bigger you are, the more people that require something from you that don't know you. And, you know, obviously I came up under Kanye West, which he feels like he could just yell at every single person to sort of get them to understand, which is another, it's not my personality. So fundamentally, what I do is I try to foster change from the inside. You know, that's how I can sleep at night, knowing that the industry will be different. I think that your generation is going to make the biggest real stride, because you need a civil rights movement to change the lens. If we would have had this conversation in 2018, a lot of ears would have been closed off because they didn't understand what we were talking about. You know, they didn't understand like hiring, like how we can hire in a diverse way, how we can tell stories in a diverse way. It just takes constant work. And I think that we're going to rewrite the rules. And to me, it's all about like, I'm very about all ethnicities being represented in fashion. My own, within Asia, within the Far East, within the Middle East, because fashion becomes more interesting when it looks like the walk around the block. You need diverse voices to tell that story, not voices from the sort of like same sort of point of view. And if we take it on in a creative way, just like we do our runway shows, the curation, I think it's not going to be the minority. I think it's going to be the majority. And all of a sudden it'll look like the World's Fair, which is way more exciting to me than a monolith.
That's amazing. I think we are coming to the end. We went with all the questions, and also we are about 10 minutes to finish. Would be really nice if Virgil could give your last words and a thank you.
Do we have Laura? Did you go? I'm looking at the top.
Yes, Laura was asking from Emma, I guess, question. But
Oh,
if
okay.
Laura and Emma are together.
they're together, they're part of the same brand. But Virgil, if you would like to give your final goodbye for the people and say your final words for everyone, and I would ask a very awkward thing that each one of you guys give a personal goodbye to Virgil, so I can get you all on camera as well when you are saying goodbye, and I can call you out after Virgil last words.
No, the closing remarks is that, you know, you guys are the LVMH Prize of 2020, which, you know, I think is such an important year in our existence. And literally, I would only wish for you guys to use the winning, because in my mind, you guys won. I'm like fighter for the underdogs and the ones that will make it into this industry. Like, my dream is that the fashion schedule in Paris like has all of your guys' names on it, and that like these are the hot shows to go to, and there's new appointments to houses happening, and that they're like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, like this is the new talent, because that's what we do it for, you know. And I would say, you know, just quite blanketly, like, make us all look irrelevant. Any one of us that's the short answer. That summarizes everything that I've said in the last because there's certain things that I'm doing because I've been building on my language, but that means that I'm leaving a door open for new stories to be told. The best part is I don't have an ego. So to me, it makes the industry better. I'm interested in how youthful ideas can make the whole system update, because I think politics can learn from fashion. I think the art industry can learn from fashion. I think the music industry needs a new North Star. I think the film industry can learn from fashion. That's why I ultimately love it, because our industry merges all these things together. Basically, I'm saying divorce the past. You know, when you think of McQueen and when you think of, who else comes to mind? Marc Jacobs, you know, like they took like a real left turn and they made the whole industry feel like, oh, there's so much more space to be discovered. Like, I'm interested in diversity as a number one thing. I'm interested in the artistry. I'm interested in the contemporary art. I'm interested in Duchamp. I'm interested in Warhol. I'm interested in my thing. So that's what I'm going to explore with my career. But I want to, I'm kind of fast. So like in a year's time, I want to hear each of your guys' names, like by doing something in the industry that no one had thought of. And I guarantee your name will keep popping up if you keep doing that. Like, that's how I know Demna. That's how I know Jonathan Anderson. That's how I know, you know, like friends, because they were like Daniel Lee, because every time is like a new shoe is like, oh, damn, you know, like what I don't want to see in the future is fashion that looks like the past. And not that it looks like that it just behaves like it, you know, behaves like a robot. Like, you know, like, I think that our generation is coming at a perfect time. The year 2020 is a massive reset. And, you know, that's ultimately like why I love LVMH as the group. I thought that it was like, you know, I'm American, so I thought it was stiff. I was like worried that there wasn't like, you know, fostering creativity. And what I love about the house is that it's really a place for radicals. You know, like it really is for artists first. So the fact that you guys won this year is a great step in your career, no matter what you do. If it's fashion or filmmaking or music or whatever you do, congrats to yourselves on building a name for yourself. And I'm excited to see where you guys all go next.
That was so inspiring, Virgil. Thank you very much for your mentoring with these people here. And right now, I would like just ask each one of you to just say a personal goodbye to Virgil, and I can get each one of you. You can start with Sidiso.
You're on mute, Cindy.
You're muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. No, thank you so much, Virgil. That was like so awesome. And especially thank you for your final, like the final question and the final answer. I just thought like everything you said on diversity is just so powerful. And yeah, it was a really inspiring hour. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
The next one, I'm just gonna find me here. Could be Priya, same order that we have before.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was such an insightful hour. I've learned a lot, and I think it's been really interesting to see all your points on different areas and how we can sort of use our platforms. And I just want to say thank you and just congratulations on everything, especially like being Black. Like, I'm Black. I feel like it's really nice to look at you doing your thing at LVMH, and it kind of helps to like let me know that I can do it too, or that I shouldn't be scared of being in those spaces. So I just want to say thank you very much.
No, for sure. And on that note, that's such a powerful note. You know, like I talk a lot and I get that. But the idea is that I guarantee, like, my job won't be done until there's more diversity at the end of runway shows.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm close. you know, we're doing it all together. Like you guys supporting me, us supporting each other, having these conversations. Like and that's what's great about Mr. Arnault and imagine how much it must have taken for them to hire me before they announced it. You know, they must have been like, wait a second, like, are we sure, you know, this, that. That's why I try to do a good job. That's why I try to keep it chic, you know, try not to get crazy, is because like, I feel like when they're going to hire next, they're going to be leading in this, like, oh, we're not afraid. You know, we made a decision to work with him. You know, the project is going well. And so, you know, that's why I really want to encourage you guys to not think like you don't have what it takes, because you're already there, but it's only in your brain.
Thank you.
Cool. Next one could be Tomo.
Hi, Virgil. Thank you so much. All of your words are so inspiring, and I know what I have to do now. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Nice meeting you too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Tomo. Next one too is Pat. Wait a second, Peter. I'm just gonna ping.
Just thank you, Virgil, for inspiring Friday morning. Thank you.
Appreciate it. No, thank you. Congrats on your project as well. You're
Thank
doing
you so
amazing.
much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Next one is Supriya.
Hi, thank you so much, Virgil. That was really inspiring and really insightful. I feel like I took so many notes, so I feel motivated and positive.
Yeah. No, thanks for finding value. I
amazing.
often worry that
Yeah,
I'm just
thank you.
rambling.
No, it made a lot of sense, and especially being from a minority, that it really kind of reaffirmed some things that I needed to hear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that inspires me. Like, I really mean it when I say like form a unit within other designers, because we're so singular, it feels right, it feels natural. But once you guys start building little crews or showing together, just linking up, like it makes you feel like you're not alone with whatever you're going through.
Thank you.
Cool.
Nice. Next one, it will be Sharaf from Casablanca.
Hey, Virgil.
Hey.
Thank you so much for the time that you gave us and the advices, but more broadly for the work that you've been doing. I think you opened some amazing doors, and we talked about this before, of course, and
yeah,
it's fantastic. Like, honestly, it's like time, it opened like huge doors. So we're gonna use your work to go to the next level for sure.
No, I appreciate it. If you guys could have seen how far Sharaf and I came for how many years, for how many late nights that we've had in some like crazy clubs, like it's funny to see us all polished on the screen here, but that's a piece of advice. Is like, keep it grimy. It's not a time to be going out still, but those late nights, you know, give the engine for the future. So
it makes the difference.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, bro.
Yeah.
Next one could be Emma, and after Laura, I can say now.
I'll go first. Thank you so much. It was very inspiring, and I also feel very positive and motivated, which I haven't felt in a while. So thank you.
No, I'm glad that you have that. 2020 is a rough one.
Yeah, for sure.
Laura.
Thank you so much. It's really been inspiring, and I think we're all going to take a lot away from it. And I really like all you said about community. I think it's really important.
Awesome. Thank you.
Last but not least is Nicholas.
Thanks, Virgil, man. Yeah, it was really nice to hear all your thoughts and comments, and really respect what you're doing across fashion, music, art, culture, bringing people together. That's something which I'm trying to do with myself. But ultimately, it's really great to see you as like a Black business owner, because I think the economics is where it's at in terms of diversity. So for me, it's even more inciting and encouraging to see like a Black business owner and also working at LVMH doing that. You know, it just echoing Priya, it just helps, gives me confidence and encouragement, but not just with Black designers or minority designers, think just across the board that you can get to that stage. So much respect, man.
Yeah, no, likewise. Congrats on your project as well. Like, we have a lot of mutual friends in common, and I think that, you know, you're showing and proving what happens when you, like, it's not diversity just for some fancy marketing statement. Like, you're putting in the work, it's affecting the community's involved, it looks different, it feels different, and undoubtedly, you know, will change the landscape. So congrats to you, and congrats to everyone. Like, you know, I think very last statement is that, you know, this industry is one part passion and it's the other part headache, you know? And, you know, thanks to Fabrice and Sophie, you know, for making this space, because, you know, brands like LVMH, they don't even have to. And so their commitment to doing it means that, you know, careers are going to get expanded. And so, yeah, I'm happy to partake. Thanks for taking the time, and be well.
Thank you, Virgil. I have to say, it was really an incredible conversation, because I'm promised I'm not like usually the super Zoom guy. First, I understood everything, and then I learned things that, yeah, I think it's very handsome to learn things today, even through Zoom conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super interesting, super inspiring. So happy that you could join us.
Yeah, no, thank you. We've had long, like Sophie was one of those people that I had coffee with.
Well, we're having a lot of virtual coffee with all the people here.
Yeah, cool.
It is only virtual now, but I'm sure we'll have a real coffee in
Yeah, exactly.
2020.
Exactly. Cool. Take care. Have a good
guys.
one.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.